Hey, this is me. Some may know me as Activist Victor. Some may know me as... Yeah, hey, this is not my real name. It's truck horn blares in the background, so you can't actually hear what the real name is now. But yeah, some may know me as My Life With Autism, whatever you know me as. I'm going to make a video today addressing the disabled community and why I think, as a whole, it kind of sucks. And this is coming from someone who has autism himself and has interacted with this community a large part of his life. And I'm making this video because every time I bring it up, I feel like people dismiss it or downplay it or act like, oh, you're just being unfair to the disabled people. You're not giving them enough of a chance. And I'm not saying all disabled people are like this, so don't use this video as some sort of vehicle to convey that message. But that being said, it doesn't change the fact that as a whole, this community kind of sucks, and it has left me just feeling unfulfilled despite how long I've interacted with it. So an example of this is people always tell me, so someone with autism, why don't you interact with other people with autism? You know, yeah, you're both similar, you'll get along, you know? So you're telling me, someone who has terrible communication skills, to interact with someone else who also has terrible communication skills and try to form a relationship.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, what could possibly go wrong indeed? Do you think that maybe what could end up happening the vast majority of the time in that and other relationships with other disabled people is that both sides have such bad communication that it implodes, or maybe one side has such bad communication that the other side just gives up? You think that that could be something that happens sometimes? I hope you said yes, because that's exactly what happened to me so many times. Let's go over some examples. There were a couple guys that I met in special rec track. We got along well, we had a similar sense of humor, and we both wanted significant others. So I thought, well, why don't we get together and try to find some? We could go out around the town, have fun, and try to meet some people. They said it was a good idea and got me all excited. And that never ended up happening because I was pushing it, trying to set up plans, and they weren't giving me suggestions of their own. They weren't giving me feedback of the suggestions I made. And eventually it degraded so far that even getting together with them or talking with them was like pulling teeth. I'd send out messages, they wouldn't reply. I'd say, when are you free? They wouldn't get back. And eventually I just had to throw my hands up in defeat and say, well, screw this. This relationship isn't worth it. I feel like I'm giving, and I'm not getting a whole lot back. But that's just one example, Victor. You're picking and choosing, cherry picking. Okay, you want more examples? I'll give you more frickin' examples. There was another guy I met at some bowling event. Seemed to get along pretty well. I'm like, maybe we could be friends. We got together a couple times and seemed to be getting along pretty well. And then I tried setting up plans. I sent 4 different messages in a row to him over the course of a month, asking when he was free, and he ignored every single one of them. Then he sent something to me, and I said, I don't really know if I want to reply because you didn't really respect me the last time that you did that. And he just said something completely unrelated that didn't even acknowledge what I was going through. It made it clear that this was not going to change. Maybe he just didn't know any better. Maybe he was that socially inept. I don't know what the deal was, but whatever it was very clear that this relationship, again, was not fulfilling for me. It was not making me feel like I was respected or important, and it was not going to change. So I had to throw in the towel. There was another couple guys I met in some program I went away to for about a year, maybe in 2015, 2016. We seemed to get along pretty well. I tried staying in contact after the program and it just fell apart. One guy would sometimes say, hi, how's it going? But every time I'd say, hi, how are you? He wouldn't say anything back. So it's kind of hard to really have a relationship with someone who won't even engage in basic conversation. And the other guy, I'd say, when are you free? And he's like, oh, I'll get back to you. Let me check. Never would get back to me. Never would reach out to me on his own. And communication just gradually dissolved. So hopefully you can see a bit of a trend here. In all of these cases, these relationships failed. And it's not because I didn't try. I tried as hard as anyone should have to try. I eventually had to just pull the plug for my sanity because I realized that energy investment on return wasn't good enough for me. And that's not even the half of it. Some disabled people actually are outright scumbags. Those people, I would say what they did wasn't okay, but I wouldn't say they were outright scumbags. Like, I don't know if they really had any malice behind what they did. I've definitely dealt with some disabled people who have had real frickin' issues too, and have hurt me emotionally or physically, and they meant it. I remember I went to some place called Kretschy for a while. It was some stupid special ed school that I'll make a video about in the future because it's terrible, and it's still open, unfortunately. But one thing at a time, I suppose. And there was this one guy here who was just an ass. You know, I remember one time I was reading a book and he freaking snitched on me and said, "You reading a book?" Another time, like, I had these cups for a coin collection, and he was like breaking the side of one of them. And I said, stop doing that, it's bothering me. So this little shit freaking does it again on another cup just to spite me like a fucking baby. All around rude and selfish human being. Never apologized for any of that either. And there was another guy who was pretty aggressive, and one time he was freaking cheating in a game and I called him out for it, and you know, he threw a fit like, this fucking guy, this fucking whiny baby, I don't want to play with him. And he kicked me. So in the moment, I'm like, fuck you, and kicked him back, and he pinned me to the ground and started attacking me. Not all of them are that physical, but yeah, hopefully you're getting a trend here. Sometimes this can actually be unsafe. Then there's a guy back at my old high school, had him in special ed classes for a while, thought we'd get along pretty well, tried to get together with him, just was non-responsive. Remember one time I tried to go spend Halloween with him, and he kept saying, oh, it's too soon, it's too soon. And then I checked back with him like a week later, and he's like, well, I already made plans. Really scummy behavior. And then he also did something where I finally got together with him another time, and I said, why don't we do this together? And he's like, well, I'd rather do this with my other friend. It's like, way to make me feel important. Then there was another group of people at the same school. Met them, seemed to get along pretty well. They seemed interested in starting a band, so I said, let's start a band. One of them proceeded to routinely ditch the band, not respecting my time or anyone else's involved. And he also said a real gem in the middle of that. He's like, is my other friend doing this? And I'm like, well, he's not sure yet. And he's like, well, then I'm not sure either. And finally, after dealing with his freaking behavior for a month, I said, this is ridiculous. Get over here and pick an instrument. Like, how is it a month in and you haven't even come over one time and picked an instrument? No remorse. Tried to pin the blame on me. How dare I get mad at him for that, right? Because wasting other people's time and disrespecting them like that is completely okay. And band imploded shortly afterwards. He actually had the gall to come to me and offer to do a rock band group afterwards, just like the week after he had failed to apologize for what he had done. So clearly no concept of way too soon. And I never really was able to move past it because he didn't apologize. I brought it up once later on and said, I'm still upset about this. And he's like, well, just get over it. You didn't apologize. How am I supposed to get over it? Needless to say, that friendship didn't end up lasting too long. But the real kicker was how, as soon as it imploded, despite it being very clear that he was the one who caused most of the problems, showed no remorse, all the other people in the special ed classes just started avoiding me. Like I was some sort of monster. Very clear that either him or his friend had spread shit about me and talked bad about me to everyone else. You know, there was one guy I tried to get together to play video games with, and he just never got back to me. And another guy, you know, just wasn't replying. It's like very clear that there was some things said about me, despite the fact that really it's pretty clear that most of this was his fault. So who is he to say that about me? It was also someone I met on Steam who also had a disability. And this is really fun. They were female, and we got to talking. At some point, we were talking every day. I was still apprehensive because I've been burned so many times before, but they convinced me to let my walls down, open up to them, and maybe even feel a little bit more, and then they just stopped talking to me. You know, it started gradually. First, they just weren't replying as much. Then weeks would go by without replying, and I said, why is this happening? And they came up with some BS excuse about being too busy, but I suppose the busy fairies are what were updating your Steam profile during that time, right? You know, you're too busy to freaking respond to me, but you could update your Steam profile just fine. So really nice to know I'm a priority to you. And eventually it just got to the point where I'm like, what you're doing is hurting me. This needs to stop. Didn't reply, and I just haven't looked back since. And we haven't talked in months. You know, and people say people with disabilities are just all saints, right?
I don't think so. Homie, don't play that.
Oh, and then there's the frickin' brony community. Oh my God. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I don't think that all of them are disabled. I do think a fair number of them do have some sort of social disability, but not all of them. Plus, this is a big fish that needs to be fried in its own video. But just if it is, I tried going to them for friends, had more of the same non-committal BS where, you know, you try to talk to them and they would just ignore you until they wanted something. And then the worst of it, trying to write fan fiction. I tried to open up and write fan fiction about past experiences, exclusion, being disabled, my days at that school that caused trauma, and I wrote fan fiction about it with the MLP characters and submitted it to FimFiction, and they just basically spammed dislike on it for arbitrary reasons. I said, why is this happening? They blatantly ignored me and continued. I said, this is very personal to me, and here's why I'm writing it, went into some detail and said, you need to stop doing this, it's hurting me. They doubled down on it. Just completely rejected me for no freaking reason. And, you know, I literally asked, why is this happening? As I said, they couldn't even take 5 seconds to explain it. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I'll go into it in more detail, but hopefully you can understand that there's definitely been some scummy behavior to me by disabled people. Now, suffice to say, not everyone who's disabled is like that. This video is not meant to it definitely is meant to vent a bit for me, so let me get that out. Let me have my moment. But not everyone who's disabled is like that. You know, not everyone's a toxic ass. Not everyone is rude. Not everyone's physically mean. But even for the ones who aren't, the relationships don't feel fulfilling. You ever had that one one friend that you feel like you have to carry the relationship and they never reach out to you. You have to reach out to them if you want to get together. They never ask you how you're doing. You have to ask them how they're doing first. And they just make it very clear that you're really not that important to them. Well, that's pretty much every friend I've ever tried to make from this community. You know, it just feels lopsided where I have to basically carry the relationship, and if I don't do all of this work, it just falls apart, and because they ain't gonna freaking pick up the slack. And I don't know whether this is from lack of ability. I don't know if it's from lack of desire. I don't know if it's from people just not telling them how important it is to do that. But this is very common. And it's caused mental health issues for me. It's made me think, am I inadequate? It's made me think, do these people really even like me? Or are they just spending time with me and talking to me because I'm the booty call? I'm the one they call when they have nothing better to do. And would they even notice me if I disappeared tomorrow? These are questions that in a healthy relationship you shouldn't be asking, because the person should be doing enough to make it where you don't have to ask them. And yet everyone around me has been doing that to me, it feels. And that's really caused some serious mental health issues. My self-esteem's pretty low, and I think that's a decent part of it. So yeah, it's hard to have fulfilling relationships with people from this community, at least in my personal case. Maybe you've had different experiences, but you know, and even for the ones who don't do this, the relationship just seems to have shortcomings. Like, you know, a lot of people with disabilities, at least mental, it's sort of like having a child's brain in an adult's body. Do you think you could go to these people to discuss relationship issues and get real advice? Do you think you could go to them to vent? Do you think they'd understand what you're going through? Probably not. So it's sort of like you're kind of on your own to deal with stuff like that. Can't really share passions. I like poker a lot. And, you know, I tried to teach someone I knew who was disabled how to play poker, and he couldn't understand it. And that's not his fault, but it kind of hurts because it's like I'd like to share that with someone I know. And I can't, because I'm the only one who gets it. Hopefully you can see where I'm coming from. It kind of hurts. Then there's the no support network. You know, people are always saying, oh, well, if you need help, you just go to your support network. What fucking support network? I don't have a support network. You know what happened when I told some of my so-called friends that my home situation was really rough and I just wanted to get away and move out? They treated it with no urgency. You know, I made it very clear, like, I'm sinking on the Titanic here. There needs to be action now. And months and years went by, and they really didn't do anything to help me. You know, and it's just been made very clear to me that if I need something big, I better fucking be doing it all myself, because these people are not going to help me. I've made peace with a couple of them since then, but you know, the relationship can never really be the same, because there's always this knowledge that, you know, if I really need your help, I don't trust you. So again, it's just all of this combined has just fucked with me mentally and hurt my self-esteem, hurt me in other ways. And then there's the issue of parent overprotectiveness and lack of independence. I'll go into this in another video as well, but a lot of them have overprotective parents that they can't really stand up against because they're not independent enough. And I've had friendships implode because of this before. That hurts as well. Like, I'm kind of a vulgar person. I say fuck a lot. You know, what the fuck's it to you? But the point I'm trying to make is a lot of people are like, you can't say that around my darling angel, so they just cut the friendship off at the knees. There was one guy I knew who the mom sabotaged the relationship. She's like, apparently the guy was crying one time he came home from my house. I had no idea, and I didn't say or do anything to do this to him. And she just freaking went over both of our heads and told my dad, well, I think, you know, probably need to just break this up. He wasn't really interested in Victor anyways. He was interested in you. It's like, you know, I've had parents freaking just get in the way so often. And, you know, I know that can happen for people who aren't disabled as well. But the problem with the disabled people is they can't tell them to go fuck themselves as readily. Like, again, if you're not disabled and you live on your own and your parents try to monkey around in your business, you can say, fuck you, get the hell out of my life, I don't need you around. And you can live on your own so you don't need them around. But how are you supposed to tell someone who's stepping out of their bounds to F off if you live under the roof and you can't afford your own place? Not so easy, right? And that's the problem with a lot of them too. I mean, maybe I'm going too deep into this. I said I covered it in another video, but that's definitely interfered with some friendships as well. I mean, I don't know if that really is the disabled people sucking. I mean, they really can't control what their parents do, but you know, it's still another reason why it's been hard to find fulfilling relationships. So why did I make this video? Well, I think I need to expose that this community is not always all it's cracked up to be. You know, I have tried for years to find friends in this community, and it just has never gone anywhere. And I'm kind of at the point where I'm starting to branch out a little bit to other communities because it just isn't giving me what I need. And I guess I'm trying to make it clear to people who keep downplaying it and saying it's my fault and I'm not giving them enough chance. No, you're the one who doesn't understand what's going on here, and you're the one who's not listening. You know, it is that bad. It is that bad. And my mental health issues are not me being too freaking sensitive. When you have years of people who you keep feeling aren't respecting you, it's going to affect you over time. And if a community as a whole is doing that, whether or not it's intentional, it's still going to hurt you, and you need to get away from that community. And that's not me saying all disabled people are bad. You know, if I met someone tomorrow who is disabled and they were a really good friend, I wouldn't say, well, you're a good friend, but you're disabled, so goodbye. No, I wouldn't do that at all. But I'm also not going to be going into this community looking for good friends either, because historically it just hasn't happened. And I don't see any reason to believe that next time would be any different. And if you feel the same way as me, I guess hopefully this video validates your feelings and makes you realize, no, you're not wrong for wanting more. As long as you don't turn people away just because they're disabled, you're not wrong. People are social creatures. They need certain things in life to feel fulfilled. And having people constantly ignore your messages, constantly ditch plans, and make it clear that you're not really a priority, it kind of affects you over time. And if a community as a whole, be it disabled or any other, is just not making you feel fulfilled, you are not wrong for saying, I need to find a community that does make me feel fulfilled. You know, it's not prejudice. It's not me, oh, you're not giving them enough a chance. It's me putting my needs first. And sometimes when your mental health is at stake, you got to be a little bit selfish like that. And again, I'm not saying that this is an excuse to hate on disabled people. Don't do that, nor am I trying to pick on disabled people exclusively. The title of the next video should be pretty clear indication of that. Neurotypicals suck. So it's not me singling out one group if we pick on everybody. And I'm not even really picking on them, right? Like, I'm saying facts. I'm saying facts. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not trying to put them down. I'm saying facts and saying how this has affected me. So I'm not even really picking on anybody. Maybe I got a little bit heated, but I mean, I've dealt with this my entire life. I mean, you'd freaking get emotional too. I think I handled it fairly well, but it is hard to stay objective when you're emotionally passionate about something. And I've been hurt a lot by this, because of a lot of this combined. I was seriously thinking of just like ending it all a couple years ago, and it should have never got to that point. But the combined not being respected, not having a support network, not having no one really take it seriously or help me find the support network I need, or being the support network I needed themselves, that played a big part in it. So this isn't just me being overly sensitive. This isn't just me blowing up issues over nothing. The fact that I was thinking of ending it tell you right off the bat, this is a serious issue and it needs to be addressed. And even if it can't be changed, I think validation of people's feelings helps a lot. And also just knowing that you're not at fault. You're not at fault if you try and all these relationships fail, but it's because the other people just don't follow through. And you're not at fault if you say, well, this community kind of isn't giving me what I need to find a different one. And hopefully people watching this will stop downplaying it. If you're someone who knows someone with a disability who's saying these things, and you're saying, oh, just get over it, or trying to say that, oh, it's your fault, or you're not trying hard enough, or just give them a break, they're disabled, stop saying that. You're not helping them, okay? You're not helping them. They're the ones who are being hurt right now. They need a hug. They don't need people trying to pin the blame on them and trying to act like, well, it'd be different if only you did this. They don't need that, so shut up. Jeez.